All right, everybody, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? How's everybody doing? You guys doing okay? You guys doing okay? Hello, hello? Oh shit, are we muted? Testing. Hello, hello. Should be working fine, from what I can tell. Right? I think this is... Hello? That In Defense of Wano section was funny as hell, not gonna lie. Parvision, what's going on, man? How you doing? What's going on? Late? No, I'm early. Wait, he just said the same thing? Yeah, man. I'd say that at the start of almost every stream. Sounds good? All right, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing well. All right. Yeah, let's get some chapter predictions going. This is going to be one of the hardest chapter predictions, period, I think. Just because it's like, what do we even have to work with here? Hey, Ender, good to see you, man. What do we have to work with here? We've got nothing. We know generally what happens at the end, right? We know that Shuri, Brook obviously quits or leaves or something like that, or gets kicked out, right? So Brook separates. We know that Shuri becomes a slave to the Celestial Dragons. King Leuven dies. That's basically it. We know that Shuri gets blamed for the death. Plumed Black Hat Shaki says, Morge, I think for Punk Hazard, Nami should have fought Caesar instead of Luffy. I mean, I think there's a ton of arcs where you could argue that a different character should have fought and defeated the main villain besides Luffy. There's a ton of arcs you could argue that, so I'm not going to say anything about that either which way. But, ultimately, it's always going to be Luffy. It's very rare. Is there an arc where somebody defeats the main villain besides Luffy? I mean, there's arcs like Zou where technically sure Zunisha does, but I think that's kind of like Oda avoiding the conflict. I think generally it's always going to be Luffy, right? And Nami kind of did get to do some stuff against Caesar. Hey, what are you doing? Yeah. Yeah, what are you doing? Law should have beat Doflamingo. I've seen that take a lot. I will never agree with that take because I just don't like Law, and I was sick of Law being the main character. 1 second. So one of our dogs has cancer at the moment. Okay. Nothing crazy yet. Okay, so we got two masses, or we got one mass removed, so we're still finding out about that. And then she's got another mass that is low grade. Okay, so in my opinion, I think we caught everything early, so it's okay. All right, but she did get one mass removed, and so she's in recovery mode. Okay, she's in recovery mode, but the rules are basically she needs to be washed all the time and everything like that, and be kept low key and everything. So I have the dog bed set up underneath the desk right now, but she just got up and left, so I might have to go corral her if she doesn't come back in. She just got up and left, and our healthy dog, we have 2 dogs, just came in and took the the dog bed. So it's like, this is not for you, man. Like, you're not sick. Anyway, so little side little side thing. What was I saying? Yeah, Law, I see that take a lot, that Law is the one who should have defeated Doflamingo. But, and I remember, like, I was on Reddit and stuff and seeing discussions while Dressrosa was going on, so everyone was like, I was mad in the first place that it was starting to look like Dressrosa is going to be a team effort to defeat Doflamingo with Luffy and Law, and I was just like, this has gone too fucking far. Like, this has gone so like, this Law fan insert character has not only been the main character for, like, all of Punk Hazard and, like, most of Dressrosa, but now Luffy's straight up, like, having to share villains with this guy. Like, every single, like, I've read One Piece for 500, 600 chapters, right? Every single arc in the time skip, it's structured so that Luffy defeats the main villain, right? And saves the day, and Luffy's the one who's supposed to do it, even if there's other characters who have more of a personal vendetta against the villain, because that's pretty much always the case. the role of Luffy is to beat the villain, right? That's what One Piece is for, right? So I never understood in the first place the argument that Law should just be this exception and that he should get to defeat Doflamingo. And I'm like, if that's the case, then fucking why Law? What makes Law so special? Why didn't what do you call Usopp get to defeat Kuro? Why didn't Sanji get to defeat Don Krieg? Why didn't Nami get to defeat Arlong? Why didn't Chopper get to defeat Wapol? Why didn't Vivi get to defeat Crocodile? Why didn't Wiper get to defeat Enel? Why is it that, like, when it comes to Law, everything's out the window? Brook didn't get to defeat Moria. When it comes to Law, everything's out the window. Everyone's like, oh, no. In this case, this guy is supposed to defeat the villain, not Luffy. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, to me, I was just like, this is absolute batshit insanity. Not only is something happening for the first time ever, which is Luffy is actually having to share the villain with somebody else, right? Which is just fucking backwards for One Piece, in my opinion. It's like, I fucking signed on to read the Pirate King story, not like the fucking duo Pirate King story. I don't have a good follow-up to that. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm reading Luffy's story, right? Like, Oda sold me on the story of every arc. I get to see this dude defeat the villain and save the day. All of a sudden, we've got this side character taking up all the fucking spotlight, and now Luffy, whose only fucking job in the story is really to beat the villain every time, as he explains to Arlong, that's my job. My job is I beat the villain. Okay, you guys do everything else, I beat the bad guy, right? Now Luffy doesn't even get to do his job anymore. He shares his job. It's kind of like in that Office episode. I don't know. The Office is still really popular, right? Everyone's seen The Office, right? Just remember when, like, after, like, 5 seasons of Michael being the manager, they're like, oh, you know what? Now it's going to be co-managers. It's going to be Michael and Jim. And it's like, I love Jim as a character. I didn't fucking want to be fucking co-manager or whatever. And it's even called out later in the series. It's like, so you've got 2 co-managers. You need 2 people to do the same job. This seems fucking backwards, right? Why do you need 2 fucking managers? You don't, right? The whole story is functioning around Luffy, right? So not only is it crazy... Okay, all right, we're getting the swap. Casey, come here. Casey, come. Great, hold on. Yeah, not only is it that we're getting... Yeah, Casey, come here. Good girl. Yeah. Good girl. Okay, yeah. You come here. Yeah. Oh. Casey, come sit here. Good girl. Come. Might have to shut the door if she tries to leave again. Yeah, not only is Luffy having to share the villain, which on its own is like way more than any side character has any right to in One Piece, in my opinion. Right? So not only is that happening, but there's like a significant faction that were like, Law should beat Doflamingo himself. And I'm like, well then why are we even fucking reading One Piece? Why not write a fucking spin-off story for Law at that point, you know? What the fuck have we been following? Yeah, good girl, Casey. Good girl. Okay. Anyway. Ender says, I read One Piece for the rehash plot. I mean, some stories you read for, like, all sorts of crazy plot twists and stuff like that, and, like, different storylines each time, like Hunter x Hunter. But One Piece, like, it's a rhythm, right? You go back for old familiar and, you know, what Oda's giving us over and over again, you know? Meek6173, thanks for the 5. How into Pokemon are you? I want to ask you a Pokemon-related question for your Pirate King podcast related to the newer generation, so I want to know your background. I would say save the Pokemon related question. For those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast submissions are open right now. Pirate King podcast is my once-a-month podcast for Pirate King tier members. It is an hour-and-a-half long podcast usually where I answer every single Pirate King tier member's question as in-depth as possible. I get to answer all questions that are submitted from Pirate King members, either on YouTube or on Patreon. And I get to do so in a much more involved fashion than I can on stream because I just have a lot more time. So if you want to support the channel, if you want to get your submission in, submissions are open right now. I will be recording the podcast pretty soon, so get your submissions in while you can. And yeah. And you get access to all previous Pirate King podcasts. All right. Continuing on. Meek I would say, sorry, the Pokemon question. The Pokemon question. I am familiar with the Pokemon anime, and I'm vaguely familiar with the Pokemon, like, I'm vaguely familiar with the Pokemon, like actual games. I never had the Pokemon games growing up because my parents did not. I was greatly deprived of video games growing up by the standards of a normal child. Like, keep in mind, so my childhood, I guess you would say, took place between, at what point, I guess, I don't know, 1999. I was born in 95, but my childhood takes place, I don't know, between like, I guess you could say the year 2000 to what? The year 2013. Okay, that's my time of being in like adolescent, like childhood through teenage years and graduation, right? The period that you're hoping your parents buy you stuff, right? During this whole spectrum of 13 years that I was a child, right? My parents bought me one console, no, two consoles, okay? They bought me the GameCube in like, I want to say 2004, 2004. So already like a little late in the GameCube cycle. GameCube is I did ask for the GameCube. Out of the three things I could have gotten between Xbox, PlayStation, and GameCube, I did ask for the GameCube. I don't regret that choice. I'm happy to have grown up a GameCube kid. But that was my last console for the next 7 years, okay? The Wii came out 2 years later, so like the generation that I got the GameCube, that was already pretty much ending. Then the Wii came out. I didn't get the Wii till like late, like December 2011 or some shit. At which point, I don't even want the Wii anymore. So basically, like two systems throughout my childhood. One was semi outdated when I got it, and it was also Nintendo, so not one of the cool consoles growing up, right? And then the second was severely outdated by the time that I got it, such that I barely played the Wii. I don't even want the Wii anymore I mean, I did want the Wii. That's not fair to say. I was happy to get something rather than nothing. But, anyway. So, because of this, I never had any sort of handheld systems, okay? In my parents' minds, getting me one, they didn't get the whole concept of new systems. Like, from their perspective, I think they might have thought of it like a TV or like what do you call a laptop or something, or like if it's not broken, why don't you just keep playing this, right? So they didn't really understand what this whole video game thing was about, okay? I think that's for the best. I think it's better that I grew up not playing a lot of video games. But anyway, handheld stuff was a bit, I wasn't even interested in that, to be fair. I wasn't interested in handheld stuff because I think I just didn't find any sort of, I didn't think I'd enjoy just staring at a thing and playing games. I don't really have phone games or anything either, so I think that that's consistent for me. So it's not like I regret not having a DS or anything like that. I think with a DS or a Game Boy, the thing that I wish is not that I had one, I wish that everybody else didn't really love playing it so much. Because, like, okay, let me paint you a quick picture, all right? Let me paint a quick picture. So, in my neighborhood, in my little circle of friends, right? You know what? Okay. First of all, let me backtrack as to why the Game Boy and the DSs and stuff annoyed me, okay? With other people having, like, game consoles and stuff, that was fine. Like, game consoles I didn't have, that's fine. You accept that. If you go to a friend's house, maybe you play that a little bit or whatever. That's all good, But with the handheld stuff, it was annoying because, like, in any sort of, like, situation where like a friend could bring along a Game Boy or DS, like let's say we're like going on a little trip somewhere, so like parents are driving us or something, or stuff like that, or like on the bus or some shit, right? Then people can just whip that out and start playing it, and it's just like, well, fuck me, I get like, okay, I guess, rather than be social and interact, you're just gonna be on the game, and it's like, that was annoying. I think that was like the thing before smartphones, I guess. Okay, so that's one. I think I was just annoyed that like people just liked having that shit and taking around. Like, we could be on a trip to fucking Six Flags or something, and when you're a kid, like on the car ride, your friend might just take out their Game Boy and start playing that, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. Anyway, here's where the Game Boy and the DS really annoyed me. So in my neighborhood, we had a little circle of friends. We were all Nintendo kids. I think I asked for the GameCube because they already, the friends I had in the neighborhood already had GameCube, so they liked playing Nintendo. So I was going to pick what they were playing, right? In general, Xbox and PlayStation was more popular, but I wanted to play what my immediate, like, closest friends were playing, so I went with the GameCube, I didn't know that much about video games, I went with that, all right? Now, when we did sleepovers, which was like really fun when you're like, elementary school through, through middle school, right? Uh, it was great because we would play, usually Smash, so like earlier Smash Melee, and then later it was Smash Brawl or whatever. So we would play that a lot, and then maybe some Mario Kart or something like that, right? Nintendo games on console, everyone can play, right? Then night times, like everybody goes to sleep. Okay, so now it's the morning. Everybody wakes up in the morning. Everybody else would just take out their DSs or whatever and play fucking Pokemon. I'm not fucking kidding. They would play Pokemon, all right? Because they all had Pokemon. They all DSs and Pokemon, all right? And I had nothing to do except sit. Sometimes I'd lean over, ask questions or something like that. I guess I could have played the console by myself, but I didn't really want to. So I actually low-key really disliked the whole concept of the Game Boy and the DS and Pokemon in general as a franchise because, yeah, it's not even like I wanted it. That's the thing. Like, for me, it's different in terms of like, I wish I could have had this game or something. It's the other way for me. I wish it didn't exist so that kids would have to learn to be fucking social and I think this is like that's probably one of my most selfish things that I can imagine, I'd say. Like, because I just remember thinking, like, in those sleepovers in the morning when I woke up and everyone's just, like, playing their DS or whatever, playing Pokemon. I wasn't sitting there thinking, man, I wish I had a DS and I had Pokemon. I was wishing that the concept of the DS and the Pokemon just didn't exist. Because I didn't like, to me, it was never appealing. I was like, why would I want to sit like in front of a tiny screen and press tiny buttons to watch like your like avatar do one attack like at a time that does like a random number generator amount of damage or something. So I didn't get the concept, right? But I knew that this game really fucking like was addicting for some reason to people. Oh, I have to corral Casey. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. Casey, come here. Come. Yeah, good girl. Okay, you gotta go in here. Good girl. Good girl. I freely admit that this was a selfish, very selfish thought, but I freely admit that it was a very selfish thought. But literally, I was just like, okay, cool. So we all just woke up. We're all at a sleepover. We're all hanging out, but everybody just wants to sit and look at their stupid Squirtle fight Charmander or some shit. All right? We're not even talking that much outside of like, like a little bit of whatever. I'm like, this is stupid. This concept is stupid. This is, in my mind, rotting everybody's brains here. I feel like this is, I don't know. Anyway, what was your question about? Your question was about, should you ask about the Pirate King podcast about Pokemon in the Pirate King podcast? The answer is no. I think that's enough Pokemon talk for me. All right. How into Pokemon am I? I think that, no, I just don't like the concept of Pokemon as a game because it's left too many childhood scars. All right. Anyway, continuing on. Let's get the stream likes up to 50. Sorry if you guys like Pokemon, but I kind of wish... I love the TV show. I think every kid who has a soul loves the TV show. But there's unfortunately not a lot of overlap between like knowledge of the TV show and knowledge of the games. Because the games are a whole different breed. Like the TV show is like fun and exciting, and it's like fun and adventurous, and it's like, oh, look at this fucking Articuno that they ran into or some shit, or like, it's just cool adventure stuff with wacky Pokemon and everything. And then the game is basically just like a bunch of math or work. And it's like, okay, so you trade in this Master Ball thing to get X amount of these things, and then if you grind doing this stupid shit for a while, then you get to level 42, and then now it's fun because now your RNG chance of hitting a crit has gone up from like 10% to 14%. It's like, this is fucking terrible. there's no way, like, it's not even accurate to the anime, because there's no way Ash is doing that shit. You think Ash knows what percent chance he has for hitting a critical hit? No, he doesn't. And yet, I think he becomes a league champion at some point. Yeah. Oh, I would add, so in college, one of my friends was, he said that, one of my roommates, he said that he was into competitive Pokemon when he was younger. And then he kind of started doing it again later, like just for fun on the side. And so then I would ask him things like, why don't you just do like a team of all water Pokemon and see how that works? And then he would shut it down and be like, no, it's just not going to work. And I was like, but you haven't even tried it. Like, what if it's just so out of left field that it just has a wonderful matchup advantage against any other team? And he's like, I don't think that's going to work. We'll never know. I think a team of all water Pokemon, I think it would just be so surprising and be like, oh, what the fuck? Oh my god, this perfectly counters my entire team lineup. I don't know. We never tested the theory. Henchme987 says, does Morch not like RPGs in general then, lol? Funnily enough, I did like RPGs when I was a kid. I think I would very easily get a little addicted to them. But it was dumb RPGs. I think it was dumb RPGs. I think it was RPGs where, I didn't have to, like, learn too much. Like, I just wanted to just be able to hop in and do. So, like, for example, my friends, I had, an Indian family friend. If you're a minority, you have general family friends that are just because your parents want to be friends with other minorities, so then you have to hang out with their kids. Does that make sense? So it's just a thing, okay? So one of our Indians, like, I had my friends, and then my parents had Indian friends, and I had to hang out with their kids at times, okay? So we had an Indian family friend. This kid was very, very, very nerdy. His big thing was RuneScape early on. Oh, no, like, two of their thing was RuneScape. So they tried to get me into that. RuneScape is fucking complicated as shit and stupid, okay? So I didn't want to play a game where I had to learn a bunch like that. But I remember I played Adventure Quest, Battle-On. That keeps things simple. And it's just, you just hop in and everything's very straightforward. Easy interface. You don't have to, like, learn. Like, you can just hop in and you understand. And then I got addicted to that pretty quick, all right? So as much as I'm shitting on Pokemon's stuff, the reality is that I can get into that stuff pretty easily if I'm given the path of least resistance to starting, okay? So I like that a lot. And then other simple things. Okay, I was a Club Penguin kid. I like Club Penguin. That's one of the only things that my mom ever actually paid for briefly, because I bothered her so... Oh, we were on vacation. That's why. We were on a vacation to Florida. It wasn't like a real vacation. It was to stay with my uncle. But we're staying with my uncle for a couple weeks in the summer. So I think my mom caved then. She's like, okay, we're staying here in Florida. I'll buy you like a subscription to Club Penguin. That's the only thing I ever got a paid subscription for as a kid. So that was a big win. Club Penguin, easy to hop into. That's not an RPG, right? Neopets. I played Neopets some too. What else? Stick RPG. Played that. Very easy. I think RPGs that are like, I don't have to... You can just hop in and everything's very obvious right off the bat. I liked that as a kid. I didn't like RPGs where you gotta, like, you know, go in depth and read shit about it, you know? I'm literally playing RuneScape right now, lol. I feel attacked. I didn't even know RuneScape still exists. Is it not dead yet? Sorry, no offense. A rare instance of catching a live Mort stream and he's stuck on the trauma gain from childhood games. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. You know one thing? Okay, here's actually one thing that I had a problem with Pokemon. Okay, maybe this is one of the big reasons that I did not like the concept of Pokemon as a kid. Aside from being ostracized, in a sense, for not being able to play it. And I know I got other supers to catch up to, just give me a second. I think the other thing about Pokemon that bothered me is that I really like the Pokemon TV show a lot. I really like the Pokemon TV show. The game did not line up to the TV show whatsoever, okay? That's what frustrated me, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, if you had, like, in my mind, like, the strongest Pokemon from the show should also be the strongest Pokemon in the games, right? I did not like the concept of, like, in my mind, like, my friends explained it to me to some degree. It's like, okay, if you got, like, a fucking Charizard or some legendary Pokemon or some shit, the fact that you have to rank up its levels and train it, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, a Charizard is a Charizard. Like, I know in the show also different Pokemon had different levels of strength based on, on their, how, it's not like all Charizards are equal or whatever, right? But it was more so just like, I didn't like the idea that, like, well, here's this. To me, it was just like, if you get a Mewtwo, it's a fucking Mewtwo. You've got the strongest Pokemon in the game. There's no reason a fucking Mewtwo should be able to lose to some normal-ass Pokemon. But in the game logic, it was like, no, that can happen if the Mewtwo's not high level enough or some shit, you know? Uh, like, that's what bothered me. And I was just like, and it was like, oh, well, you can train this Pokemon up to beat legendaries. I'm like, well, actually, technically in the show, you can kind of do that too, but not strong legendaries. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's what bothers me. It just doesn't, like, it's like, you got a Mewtwo, but it's like a level 70-something Mewtwo and not a level 99 Mewtwo or something. Therefore, it can lose to normal Pokemon. I'm like, no, that would never happen. No, Mewtwo would just fuck up whoever's got to fuck up, you know? I don't know. That's what I remember. Continuing on, Meek, thanks for the 10, man. Spurs beating OKC equals life is great. Who are you rooting for, and who do you think is going to win Knicks versus Spurs? We went and, okay, so the Spurs beating OKC was so satisfying to watch because I only watched the game 7, right? I only sat down to watch the game 7. And in this game 7, we went to a bar, right, to get the atmosphere, etc., right? And my fiance actually was the one who convinced me to go because I was kind of just like, okay, I'll put it on if it's good on TV or something at home. Okay, I was very reluctant because I had my heart ripped out last year when the Pacers fucking had that injury through Game 7, you know? So that was my thinking. It was just like, I'll watch it, but only if it's good. But she pushed. She was like, no, let's go out. Let's make a thing out of it. It's, it's Game 7. She's not a big basketball person, but she kind of had a feeling that it would be enjoyable to do it like this, okay? So went there, and at first it was like, okay, it's good. Literally, there was a time that the OKC pulled into the lead a little bit, and I was like, I can't sit here and waste 2 more hours in the bar, or like an hour and a half in the bar, just watching the Spurs lose. And I was like, we're going, let's go. And she was like, no, let's wait. And what do you know? Over time, that was a great experience overall. It was a great experience. I genuinely thought that I was just going to sit there in this bar and we're going to watch the Spurs slowly lose. And it was just going to be a soul-sucking experience, and I would much rather be at home. Great experience. I was super happy when it happened. Super happy. Who's going to win Knicks versus Spurs? Who am I rooting for? I think I'm rooting for the Spurs, but I'm not like hard rooting for my fandom for the Spurs was largely driven by them being the team that could beat OKC. I'm not like a huge like go Spurs person, but I would rather the Spurs win out of the two. I think it'd be really cool to see Wembanyama kind of begin his legacy, potentially as the greatest player of all time, if not at the very least of our generation, right? I think that'd be really cool. But I'm not like I'm not deeply invested, so I didn't watch game 1. I don't think I'm going to be able to watch game 2. Is game 2 tonight, I think. I think next week I'll be able to watch some games, time-wise. So I'm not super invested, but I am more warm towards the NBA right now, if that makes sense. I think the Spurs are going to win. Knicks obviously won game 1, so, I don't have a hard call on this series because I honestly have underestimated the Knicks. I have not watched a single Knicks game this postseason. I'm a complete casual right now. So, from my perspective, Spurs seem like, Spurs and Thunder seem like the best team in the league, but I might have just been hardcore underestimating the Knicks. Let's get Streamlights up to 50 real quick. Tuna sub, thanks for the 5. You think we could see a Vince Smoke family appearance? We know Brooke knew both of them at the very least. That name makes my backbone crawl back and so. That's an interesting idea. That's a very interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea. Annie He-Man, Noah, thanks for the 5. Morge slandering Law while I just got my Law and Beppo Funko Pops and Law's book off Amazon. Crazy timing, Morge. No Law slander on my watch. Sorry, man. I feel like The I still support Beppo. Tiptier Trevisa, thanks for the 2. You gonna upload Wano analysis slash defense tomorrow? The Wano defense has already come out. The Wano defense was released already, unless you did not see the latest video, in which case I suggest you go check out the latest video and the Wano defense section. It was a stunning defense, in my opinion. Tiptier Trevisa, thanks for the 2. Levels are literally canon in the anime, look it up. I do not remember Ash ever being like, my Charizard is level 4 or 5. If they're in the anime, they're pretty much irrelevant. If you can find me some YouTube clips of them being like, oh, Mewtwo, we ran into Mewtwo. This Mewtwo is level 42 or some shit. I would love to see that. I don't remember that in the movie. Tiptia says, if you're only invested in hating a team, then why are you a fan? I'm not. It was more so that I'm not a big NBA fan at the moment. Knicks in 4. I don't know how's the Knicks and Spurs what do you call? How have the Knicks and the Spurs matched up? Morge made me love Wano with the latest video, for real. I'm glad. Reality is I was not able to finish the Wano analysis in time, but I knew I still needed to put out a defense. So that is the defense. But there was progress made on the Wano video in the process. So if that helps. That was basically the backup plan if I could not get the Wano video done. Hongshu Mimimi, thanks for the 2. Brook cracks his skull in this chapter. Brook cracks his skull. Oh, that'd be... Okay, hold on. Let's actually pull up the predictions. Give me a second here. If you had to give a chance to Wano for real in that video, what would you have said, Morge? I mean, straight up, like, again, these are things that are coming in the Wano analysis, but I like Gear 5th as a concept. I feel like there are themes in Wano that are done fine, and there's like bits of symbolism that are used kind of well. How food, but I view the symbolism that's done in Wano like a lot simpler than it is done in past arcs. Food is a big theme of Wano and what it represents. Fire is a theme. There are ideas in Wano that are good. Gear 5th is really good. Um, I do find Kaido to be a compelling villain overall, actually, despite where his backstory and everything went. But I think in terms of presence that he had throughout the arc, I think that was really strong. I think Momonosuke's character arc is good. So there are strengths. There are strengths. We never getting the Wano video now? Fuck no. I did make progress on the Wano video. I was hoping to drop it this week. I realized I could not finish it, and therefore I went with my backup option, which is, okay, let's just put out the defense of Wano on its own, but the Wano analysis is still coming. Denjiro got done dirty in Onigashima. He did nothing. I mean, he killed Orochi, but that also feels kind of like doing nothing in a sense, because it's just, there's so many parts of the plot that are just inconsequential to some degree. All right. Here, okay, so we'll put up some predictions real quick. Let's get this going. All right, whatever. We already had Tuna Sub said Vinsmoke family appearance. All right. An appearance from the Vinsmoke family. Tuna Sub. Brook cracks his skull in this chapter. Have you added more Mimimis to the end of your name? I feel like there weren't this many before. Hunter x Hunter's coming back? We're getting Bloodborne 2 before the Wano analysis. I heard some news that it's basically just there's no Bloodborne 2 ever happening. I don't even care about Bloodborne 2. It's just yeah, no, I'm same as everybody else. I just want to see it on PC or something else cuz like who the fuck has a PlayStation? I mean, I had to borrow a PS4. I mean, PlayStation 4 specifically. I had to borrow a PS4 from somebody else just to be able to play it. Candle is a Holy Knight reveal. I think that's a pretty reasonable prediction. Wait, Hunter Hunter's on a... Wait, what does Hunter Hunter's on a spinning stick mean? The latest batch of Hunter Hunter chapters that were coming out were just, like, amazing. I bought a PS5 to play Bloodborne again. Wait, can you play Bloodborne on a PS5? Oh, you can. My bad. It's PC. That's what I was thinking. You can't play it on PC, which is what I would prefer. Tala says that video was not Defense of Wano lol. Morge, this is just worming out of the late points. It's stated in the video that this is a Defense of Wano. It's stated in the video that this is the Defense of Wano, and it gives a Defense of Wano. But if people have significant grievances... Oh, 1185. If people have significant grievances... There is one thing I was considering that we could do. But from my perspective, it seems like people are accepting that as the Defense of Wano, because it's outright stated that it's Defense of Wano, and I give some defending points for Wano. Gunko gets attacked by Don Morone's mercenaries. Oh, that's interesting. But isn't that a long time back? Was Don Morone, like, alive then? I mean, when we bought it, he did say it might be a sarcastic defense. Yeah, sarcastic. I mean, that was always a fair possibility. Defense of Wano is not the same as Wano analysis. Yeah, but the Defense of Wano is what the deadline was for. I just asked you guys, if I do the Wano analysis, could that also count as Defense of Wano as long as I'm including some Defense of Wano? You guys said yes. So that was like an option of what I could go with, but the main thing is I had to put out some form of Defense of Wano by this point in time. Hongshu Mimimi says it was not an In Defense of Wano video, it was In Defense of Wano in a video. That is true, but I could just relabel the video In Defense of Wano. I don't know. Okay. Let me do a quick poll. Because I don't want you guys to feel like the late points are unfair. Morge, have you considered just locking in and finishing the Wano analysis? I sincerely tried. I was not able to do it, which is why then I went with this as the backup option. Because I was like, well, there's not really time to do a full-on Defense of Wano video, plus it's just not, a video that would constitute like a normal 15-20 minute video. So I was like, okay, I'll fit in Defense of Wano. I'll do it in Defense of Wano. But here's what we can do. I don't want to rip you guys off. Here's what we can do. Okay? So I'm not even going to do a poll. Let's be super... Okay, here's what we can do. So, no, Wano analysis is still coming. I did make some progress. I was not able to get it done in time. I did put out an In Defense of Wano. To be fair, I did put out an In Defense of Wano. If you guys have... If we want to litigate whether or not this counts as an In Defense of Wano video, what we can do is this, all right? What we can do is this. Wano analysis is still coming, all right? I can do these 3, 4. I'll give you 4 late point penalties all in one go, okay? So what I can do is a 5-hour stream where I'm doing Law cosplay that also includes a waifu tier list, and I'll throw in a high Morge cast. I can do all of that if that's a make good, all right? Because from my perspective, I checked off the In Defense of Wano. I can see why people might be upset that this was not a full In Defense of Wano video. Wano analysis is notwithstanding because that was not required for the penalty, okay? But this is what I can do as a make good, all right? I'll give you 4 penalties in one, totaling, 150, 300, 500, 575 late points. That's pretty damn good, and then we get to rack the board again with a new set of penalties, okay? We can set the date right now for whatever you guys feel like is best. We can do a Friday or a Saturday. Is that fair? I think that that's fair, because from my perspective, you guys still get an In Defense of Wano. Wano analysis is still coming down the road, and we can just do a bunch of penalties in one go. I think that's a pretty damn good deal. It's not, I can't do a high stream. That's not even like I literally can't do it. Maybe I could do it for like 5 minutes, and then I would feel like I would not like doing it. It would be genuinely unenjoyable. Let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. Tiptio thinks the two Morge are gonna be pestered forever for this. This is my make good promise. I can't really do more than this because I can't get out the Wano analysis magically like tomorrow or anything like that. I'm not gonna redo a In Defense of Wano video. I can give you a lot right here though. I can give you guys a lot right here. So let's figure out a date. Okay, so date would basically be for the 5-hour stream, which will include a waifu tier list. I'll be wearing Law cosplay, and I'm throwing in a high Morge cast. All right. Tala says it's a great deal, assuming it doesn't get wormed out of again on a technicality. Fair. I want you guys to be able to trust the late penalty system. So let's see. Let's set a date. I cannot do next Friday. So how about the following Friday, the 19th? All right. So we'll do our traditional chapter stream, but we're going to stretch it. We'll do it 5 hours. So after we talk about the chapter, we'll do the waifu tier list. I'll wear Law cosplay the whole time. And the following Tuesday's Morgecast will be a high Morgecast. I think that's a pretty good deal. I've been called by scam callers in India, and yet I feel more betrayed by this. I defended Wano. I thought, all right. Only if you had a Bollywood dance do we do a deal. No. Hongshu Mimimi says, I think there's just not enough defense of Wano and Morge's body for a whole video. That's a big part of the thing, which is like, even if I do a sarcastic one, I can't fill 15 to 20 minutes, right? So I had to include it in a different format. I considered doing a YouTube short, but I thought that people would get more upset if I did a YouTube short. So this was my way of doing like a video that has substance, because I think there's interesting takes on most One Piece arcs in there. A video that has substance while also includes an In Defense of Wano. All right, so do we want to set a date? Can I set a tentative date? And then we can workshop it if people want something different, or if I have to move it to the Saturday instead of the Friday. So let's do Morge 5-hour stream with Law cosplay, plus waifu tier list included, plus high Morgecast, June 19th, plus high Morgecast, following Tuesday. Let's do that. You should look up Law cosplay prices first. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy with it. But let's see. Please start earlier for your European stream watchers for that 5-hour stream. I can try and do that. Yeah, I can do that. I can do that because we'll talk about the 5-hour stream as it's coming up. We'll talk about it as it's coming up. Because I want to do it in a window that as many people as possible can join. So if it's the Friday or the Saturday, we'll figure out what we want to do. Yeah. Okay, back to the thing. Okay, chapter. Hold on. All right. Lock in the start time. He's going to start it at 2 a.m. No. Oh, Soluris with a great prediction. Thanks for the 5. Great prediction. Celestial Dragons request to do hunting games on Hesperia. That's a phenomenal prediction. That's a great, truly great prediction. I think that's my favorite prediction so far. That's very creative. That brings it together. Oh, Powerful Anno, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 37 months, man. Ideal One Piece blunt rotation. I nominate Cobra. Ideal blunt rotation. Oh, that's a fun question. That's a fun question. I think Brooke might make it. Brooke would play some good music. Brooke. Robin? I wonder what Robin's like high. That'd be funny. Dragon might be fun. Just see where. No, he might be too serious. I think Shanks. I think Shanks is pretty chill. Luffy? No, Luffy would be too much. If we get one more person in there. That's a good question. One more person in there. Doflamingo. No. This is hard. It's very difficult. Hero Look. I think Hero Look would be fun. Mr. MF2, thanks for being a Yawn Twitch here member for 43 months, man. Yo, Morge, when are you growing the mustache back? Also, I predict we will know the reason Brooke became a pirate. That's a good prediction. Mustache, I don't think I've ever gone back. The only reason that I grew a mustache in the first place was, it was, I think like 2020, must have been 2024, and it was for a Halloween costume initially, so I had the beard, and then, at the time, my fiance at the time, my girlfriend, we were doing a Halloween costume of the Adams, right? So Gomez and Morticia Adams. So then I just shaved my beard so I had the mustache, and then I actually how to explain? I think it's rare for someone to genuinely look better with a mustache, but people like so I think like among the vast majority of people who have mustaches, I'd say like the there's 70% or something who like having the mustache just because it's like a distinct, like, quirky look, like you're almost having it ironically, and then I think there's a 30% of people that have the mustache because it genuinely makes them look better. I don't think the mustache makes me look better, But I shaved and I had the mustache, and I was like, this is so silly. I got a mustache. This is silly. I'm doing it for this costume. And then Halloween came and went, and I was like, I'll shave the mustache. I'll shave it tomorrow. I'll shave. And then after a bit, it was just like, I just think it's funny I have a mustache. So then I kept that for some time. I didn't actually think I looked good with the mustache. I was just like, it's like, it's funny. I'm just like a mustache guy for the moment. And I think during this time, you know, it's funny. During this time, I was also testing out the crazy long hair. So it was the weird. That was probably the most bizarre I've looked ever. I think I just had the mustache going and like the crazy long hair, and I was like, I'm like some sort of a character. This is hilarious. I didn't actually think I looked good during this period of time. It was a fun look though. We'll learn the reason Brooke became a pirate. Oh, hold on. Let me let Casey out now that my fiance is back. Hold on. All right. We will learn the reason that Brooke became a pirate. All right, let's do it. We Mr. MMF2. Grow out the hair again along with the porn stash. Think I'm good. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 50. The novelty of a mustache is very fun, lol. I like a goatee way more, though. Goatee, I think... Yeah, it's mainly for the novelty of having the mustache, not because... I don't know. You ironically have it, whatever. It's just... It feels fun, kind of funny to have, but not ridiculous. I think with the goatee... it feels a little bit more serious. Like you're going for an actual look with the goatee. So I think I could never do that, personally. Beards are okay, but again, food can fall into it making another chore. I much prefer being clean shaven generally, just because it feels more comfortable. But uh, like I'm good going like I have a beard trimmer, which is like automatic, so it makes it really easy to shave the beard down. So as long as it's shaved down, I also don't mind that either. Morge, can you grow mutton chops? I don't know about mutton chops. What are mutton chops? Oh no, I know those. I don't want to. No. No, don't want that. Morge has a mustache right now. I mean, I've got a mustache slash beard. I got both, right? Like, I think when you've got both, it's just considered having a beard, right? Usually don't say beard and mustache. And then when you got just a mustache, then you call it just a mustache, you know? Can't be too... Okay. Sorry, let me just check one thing. Oh, 1185 prediction. Asperian must host a God's Night. We see Brooke learn about them. So this is Candle. Okay, so I'm not going to give this to you if the God's Night is Candle, because we already have a prediction on that. So instead I'll say Asperia has a God's Night besides Candle. All right, so then that way you can get in there. But you, yeah. And Brooke learns about them. Plumed Black Hat Shacky. I do wonder with yeah, Brook learns about them. I do wonder if Brook would know what God's Knights are right now. I guess he would find, yeah, he learns about them, right? I want to do a quick poll. Do people think Candle is good or bad? Let's see. Emu cracking Candle reveal. Is Candle good or bad? Good. Is she good or bad? It also counts if she's not a God's Knight yet, but chooses to become a God's Knight. That would still put her in the bad category. All right. Fanta Suuz, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 12 months. I've watched the question where in the video is want. I've watched the question where in the video is want to defend it. Sorry, I'm asking about an old topic. The last video that I put out talking about One Piece's the biggest weakness of each One Piece arc. Check out the Wano section. Check out the Wano section. Also, in that video, so I genuinely struggled to think of any weaknesses for Water 7 Enies Lobby. Does anybody have an actual one? Like some of the, if you listen to my podcast that week, the Morgecast, I elaborated on some of the arcs that I think are actually pretty much flawless, and I had to really, really stretch to come up with something, you know? Like Saboti and stuff like that. But Water 7 Enies Lobby, even stretching, I couldn't think of any weaknesses. You know? Does anybody have any? Is there like something I'm forgetting? Yeah. Okay, we got a nice split. 57-43. Yeah, let's see. The C train part is kind of weak in my opinion. Oh, I like the C train part. I like the C train. Shit. To me, the C train actually has like a lot of really memorable moments. It's not like the intensity of the Enies Lobby fights, but it's to me it has a lot of really cool moments because it's like they're lower level fights, but they're done in manners that are cool in my opinion. You know, so like lots of times you can have like a lower level fight that's just lame. Like I'm never going back to reread or rewatch like Luffy versus Caesar or some shit, you know? But with the C Train fights, I think pretty much all the beats. So I think Luffy and Zoro, their team attack to blast through the Aqua Laguna wave. I think that's really cool. I thought that was a really cool Luffy Zoro moment. And that's just like kind of the start, right? I think Sanji versus Wanze is low-key one of Sanji's best fights in that, like, it's Wanze is weak, but Sanji actually gets to use his cooking skill. I think that's one of Sanji's, like, low-key coolest scenes in the story. Great incorporation of him being a chef finally into the action of the story. Low-key, in my opinion, a better incorporation of Sanji as a chef into the plot of the story than, in my opinion, Whole Cake Island. Like, I think Sanji's cooking skills were more effective in taking on an opponent in just that Wanze battle than the entire cake thing with Big Mom. Recently with the Whole Cake, because I had to do the weaknesses of the arc thing, I went back and skimmed, and I was like, was Sanji and the cake thing really as, like, useless as many people feel, or is that kind of exaggerated? Because in my mind, it was like, oh, well, she was knocked out for a chapter. That's good, you know? Help them get away. But if you go back and read it, it's actually a few pages. It's kind of crazy. Like, I feel like Oda, just the timing of it all or something was off, or I don't know why he went with this route. It's a few, it's less than a chapter. It's not even half a chapter. It's genuinely like the same chapter, unless I'm misremembering again, but genuinely, I think it's all like chapter 902 or something, or 901. I think it might be 901. I think it's all in 901. It's like, it shows Big Mom like kind of lying down in bliss, and then she's right back up again immediately after chasing the Straw Hats, which is just like, and that wouldn't even be the worst thing if not for like how much time was spent on Sanji baking this cake, and the fact that like Sanji reiterates many times that the cake is gonna knock Big Mom out. It doesn't do that or anything close. So Anyway, sorry, that's a big, long tangent. Okay, main things are in the C Train section. I loved like Luffy and Zoro get a good moment, right? Then Sanji versus Wanze is great. Zoro versus T-Bone is a cool. It's like one of the coolest like little swordsman showdowns that we get in the story, where it's like it's not an elaborate battle. It's just like almost like a gunslinger quick draw where they both just do two moves and it's like a very fast interaction, but it's cool, right? Zoro cutting the C Train is cool. Frankie versus Nero is a good introduction to taking on the CP9's abilities. And then finally we get to see kind of CP9 stomp on the Straw Hats' hopes again, and I think that that's really cool. Like a lot of the moments from the C Train arc I view as memorable moments. Like the least memorable is probably like Sanji versus Jerry, and even that's kind of like a fun comedy scene, you know? So, I don't know. I really like the C Train section personally. It just has such a cool vibe, in my opinion. Everybody charging through the storm on this train across the seas in pursuit of like this other train. And just a lot of really, you know what it is? So like the C Train section, so Water 7 kind of has this structure, which I think is a great structure, right? Where like the Straughts are for like in general towards the beginning of the arc, the Straughts are having lots of troubles with lots of random stuff. And then everything really comes crashing down with their defeat to CP9 in at Iceberg's mansion. And so they're at their absolute lowest in the series ever. And then they kind of like come roaring back with like renewed resolve to go back and save Robin, right? So the C Train serves as like a sort of this plot line that's working in tandem with the Straw Hats' own sort of surging emotions, and that like they're on a nonstop train ramping up to go get revenge on the characters that beat them and save Robin. So you don't want to give them their extreme difficulty fights right away. You want to kind of ride that wave of positive emotion before having them really struggle again, right? So like they come out of the struggle at Water 7, they get on the C Train, and the C Train kind of serves as like the snowball to get things rolling. So like you get really cool moments like Luffy and Zoro like destroying this tidal wave, Zoro like one-shotting this pretty cool and memorable Marine captain in a very unique style sword duel for One Piece. Sanji in one of his most unique battles ever, like showing off why he's such a good cook, and getting to flex that in a really unique way. Zoro cutting the C Train's a really cool moment, and then obviously Frankie defeating Nero. You know, that's maybe a forgettable fight in the grand scheme of things, but it's a good way to introduce like how you combat CP9's abilities and everything like that. So I actually love the C Train section. Personally, but so I don't know. Is Kandel good or bad? Okay, so now we're at a 50-50 split. Just some guy with naturally wavy hair. Good to see you. Prediction King Harold is mentioned in this chapter. Prediction King Harold is mentioned in this chapter. I can see that, yeah. King Harold is mentioned in this chapter. I guess I should put your exact title, right? It's WA3466. Damian Wright! Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 33 months, man. Coming up on 3 years. Make sure you get your Pirate King podcast submissions in. Pirate King podcast submission in. For those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast is a once-a-month podcast that I do exclusively for Pirate King tier members on YouTube and Patreon. And it's basically just all Pirate King members can submit a question. I answer every single question over the course of the podcast in much more in-depth format than I can on streams because I have more time. Podcast is about an hour and a half, and you can ask questions on anything, One Piece, other anime, movies, real life, games, whatever. Yeah, and you get access to all previous podcasts. If you want to support, then definitely check out that, because submissions are open right now. They will be closing soon for the month. And then I'll be recording the podcast shortly. Hey, Morge, time flies. Yeah, man, 3 years almost. Can you believe the Marines raid on Blackbeard's HQ started in a chapter released 3 years ago? Oh my god, crazy. Gorse killed the king because he doesn't want to pay the celestial tribute. Oh shit! You know what? Even if it's not the Gorse who do it, I'll give it to. Yeah, I'll give it to you if your reason is accurate. So if the celestial dragons have him killed, Gorse killed the king because he didn't want to pay celestial tribute. Interestingly, usually... Oh, whoops. Sorry, spelled you wrong. Interestingly, from what we've seen in the past, if you don't pay celestial tribute, you're not necessarily, like, penalized. You instead just lose all world government privileges, which is kind of it's equally bad. So they don't... Because, basically, if you lose world government privileges, then two things happen. One, you are now open to being ransacked and pillaged, etc., by pirates, right? Which is basically what happens. So we've gotten this explanation a few times, like Marco explains in chapter 909 or 908 or whatever, 909. Like, all islands that don't pay, or pretty much all islands that don't pay celestial tribute, basically become like fodder for pirates, and then they become lawless zones that get destroyed. That's the type of town that Blackbeard grew up in, for example. That nearly happens in the Lucia Kingdom when they're unable to pay the celestial tribute. They don't have the Marines protection, or they're worried about losing the Marines protection and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of like, it's a protection racket, which is you pay us the celestial gold, otherwise, like, we stop taking care of you, and then your island gets destroyed by pirates, right? Yeah, so just some. Oh, and then the other thing that happens if you don't pay the celestial gold is now your island is open season for the celestial dragons to have their hunting competitions, which is really bad. Tio Treviso, thanks for the 2, man. Predict Candle will mention Emu as the Great One. Oh shit. Candle will mention Emu as the Great One. I still wonder, do all celestial dragons know about Emu, or just the God's Knights? Because it must be pretty tight, like, so because, like, the God's Knights are all composed of celestial dragons from families, right? So, like, Somers, right? Like, let's say Somers, how do you say? Let's say Somers goes back to the Shepherd family, right? And, like, he's got a wife, kids, brothers, family, etc. Does he just never mention? Is he probably sworn to secrecy or something? Like, never allowed to mention who's in charge? Or do all celestial dragons know about Emu? I don't know. Yeah, either get fucked by pirates or fucked by the world government, says Tio. Yeah. So, it's rare. I mean, it's entirely possible that the king also gets punished for not paying the celestial gold. That's totally possible too. But from what we've seen, they kind of just lose protection, and then either they do the hunting grounds there, or pirates just destroy the town. Yeah. Sharia didn't know about the Void Sentry. No way they know about Emu Morge. That's true, but I think those two things are not, like... I don't think those things have to go hand in hand, necessarily. Yeah, only God's Knights know about Emu, not all Celestial Dragons. Yeah, because then they still view the empty throne, right, as, like, the symbol of all 20 families kind of working in unison. I don't know. I think it's just the God's Knights. Someone like Charlos would definitely not be careful with that information. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That must be such a sad existence for Emu then, though, because it's like, it's so lonely, And I know you might be like, well, Emu might not. Here's the thing. Okay, like, my perception is that people who have, like, a lot of power and wealth, like kings, etc., especially in One Piece, even though they're obviously terrible, right? I feel like part of it is that they also like being able to flaunt that in front of others. You know what I mean? Like look at Orochi, right? So, like, when we get to cut into Orochi's situation in chapter, what, like 929 or 930 or something, I think it's one of those two. right? When we're first introduced to Orochi, here, hold on. I don't mean to say this like as sympathy for Emu or anything like that. I'm saying more so just like, what's the point of being, uh, like the ruler of the world if you have to like hide it from everyone? Like, look at this, right? So like when we look at Orochi, right? Orochi's kind of living it up as this king, dictator, whatever, right? So we see Orochi being introduced, yada yada. And look at this, right? He's got so many people waiting on him hand and foot, offering him food, yada yada. You want this? Do you want that? Do you want fish? Do you want that? He's got singers, dancers, presumably some degree of what prostitution here as well, right? Implied. Like, look at all this, right? Like, this is a like obviously you get all the same material comforts if you're Emu, right? But it's would just be a very different vibe if it's just Orochi sitting in a room basically by himself eating a lot of food. No music, no entertainment, like no other people kind of like sucking him off of how amazing he is, right? And like the Gorse and the Gods Knights, I don't think they really do that. You know, like they're not really invited to Emu's private parties, I imagine, where like they all have to sit around and watch him like eat and drink and everything like that, you know? I mean, maybe they are, but you know, it's still only like 13 people, right? So it's just weird to think about, right? Like you could be Emu and you've got all the power over the world, but if you have to be completely hidden except for, you know, a small handful of people who are your soldiers, doesn't life still really suck? Like, if you're gonna be an asshole, like, all powerful, all controlling dictator who can have whatever they want, then what's the, like, you can't even enjoy the excess of power that you hold, right? Like, doesn't emus, isn't it just terrible? Why do you think Emu wants Vivi? Emu has to get sucked off in secret? Yeah, I mean, like, that's Gunko's job. Yeah, I mean, that's presumably Emu, assuming he's, I don't know, presumably there's some sort of, maybe it's just slaves or something that get sent to him, which is really dark in and of itself, obviously. But he can't even have a part, like, he can't have any sort of social sort of whatever, right? Like, Orochi, obviously, all of his social situation is manufactured in that everyone has to pretend to like him and kowtow to him and everything like that because he's the boss. But that even that illusion of having social connections and like validation or any or whatever, right? That's better than Emu's situation where it's just like isolation and then maybe some form of slaves are sent to you on occasion or whatever, right? Isn't his life is terrible? Meek says thanks for the 5. Imagine only 13 people in the world knowing you exist, lol. Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of sucks. Maybe he was like Orochi for the first 100 years, then wore off. But then what's it all for? Then what even? Why does he even want to control the world at that? Like, you know, if he's all powerful and the things that he's doing with it are basically just like living like a hermit, presumably he gets all the material needs that he wants met, right? Like all the food that you want, but you can only eat so much. I guess TV to some degree, like One Piece's relationship with TV is kind of vague. You know, they clearly are able to cast things with the Den Den Mushi, but I don't know. It's not really implied that they have television shows. Some reading, I don't know if Emu's a big reader. Like, what is he doing all day? Like, if you just have to be isolated the whole time, then at a certain point, it's just like, why even rule the world? Why not just like, just why not let it go? Like, what is he getting out of ruling the world? Why not let it go and then just go? literally, if you're Emu, why not just go conquer some island or something like that, and then you don't have to be a fucking secret. Like, you know, you don't have to be a fucking secret. Just find an island, like, post up like Orochi, and then be a dictator of that island, and then you don't rule the world. But what were you getting out of that anyway? Wouldn't it? Isn't Orochi living a better dictator experience than Emu as far as dictatorship experiences go? Emu's the weird otaku final boss. Yeah, I feel like he should have no social skills. I mean, he talks to the Gorosei, but it's all like commands and shit. I don't know. Emu. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like, dude, you're leaving behind a lot of uh like luxury and such to go to a barren planet with no resources. I mean, they secretly had resources, but to go to a barren planet essentially with only 5 people. One thing I will respect about Enel, one thing I'll respect about Enel, oh, he can't leave the Holy Land for too long, Morge. Duh, fucking, where's my brain at? Obvious question, obvious answer. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I apologize, that was a stupid question. One thing I'll say I'll always respect about Enel, to some degree, is that he wasn't picky about the 5 people that he decided he gets to take with him. He was just like, whoever. It was very merit-based. It was very merit-based. As terrible as Enel was, he was genuinely like, whoever wins this, this survival game, they get to go with me, right? Like, it's pure meritocracy. It's not like Enel sitting there being like, all right, obviously I want my priests to come because I know them and I have like a dynamic with them. It's like, fuck it, I'll take some strangers. I'll take whoever. I'll take 5 of the fucking goat people if they win. I'll take East Blue people I've never met. That's cool. Like, what's your name? Usopp? All right, fuck it. I've never met you. We have nothing in common. We're going. He didn't care if women won or anything like that. He wasn't like, oh, I need to take some, uh, some women with me to this planet or something like that. He wasn't like, I want to remain like Nami. He happened to take along, but that's because Nami did technically win the survival game. If it was just like 5 random goat dudes that he'd never spoken 2 words to, he'd have been like, fuck it, yeah, we're all right, guys only. Let's do it. Like, I'm down. Like, he wasn't like, oh, I want to take a good musician or a good cook. Like, I want to make sure we're well rounded. Like, I have my needs met. Like, I'm going to have good food. I'm going to have entertainment or anything like that. He was just like, whoever wins, wins, I don't care who. I don't know. It's actually pretty admirable that it was one of the, as selfish and self-centered and terrible as he is in every other way, that was probably the least selfish thing that he could have done. He was literally like, merit-based, let's do it. I'll take the 5 winners, right? Not even the 5 strongest, just the 5 winners. Because, strongest doesn't mean you make it all the way to the end. Like, again, Nami got there, right? I don't know. Deptio, thanks for the 2, man. Emo's intro and 909 and face reveal was 8 years apart. That is really crazy. That is really crazy. Meek6173, thanks for the 5. Prediction, it's revealed that the previous kings of Vesperia were the Manyamar family. Oh, like how the Don Quixotes were the previous kings of Dressrosa. That would be real. That's a great prediction. Great prediction. The previous kings of Vesperia were the Manyamar family. Monmere family. Is it spelled a little different? I feel like it's 2 A's. Monmere family. I don't. Nah, now it's definitely wrong. KC, no. Great prediction, Meek. Oops. Does Garling mean that Emu doesn't hire based on merit? Elbaf arc feels like most likely Usopp dies as a sacrifice before the last battle. All others in the crew push for while Usopp stays behind. So there's a small part of me that thinks that that would be like amazing, and maybe that's why Oda spent so little time on Usopp so far. Like it's all leading up to him getting the big spotlight at the end. But my questions are: does Usopp then like? The problem is Usopp's dad, in my opinion. It's several things, right? So like Usopp's dad is the biggest thing to me there, because I'm just like, well, then what exactly is the deal with Usopp's dad, right? Like, is Usopp, um, is that never gonna come full circle where Usopp gets to meet his dad, right? Does that just never happen? I don't know. Unless the red-haired pirates fucking show up for a brief appearance of Usopp's dad, right? So that's one. Two, Usopp versus Van Augur seems pretty set up, so it's like, or at least very likely. So it's like, okay, if Usopp just dies here, then what's the deal with Usopp versus Van Augur, right? There's just, and then you could argue even Usopp and Kaya is a loose thread. So I just think that there's too many things. Narratively, I think it would be really cool because I think if you have a major beloved character's death, like if you have a Straw Hat death at any point in the story, I feel like it has to come well before the final battle, because like Oda's even said, it's hard to have like a really big party or something like that if somebody dies during the battle, right? So it's like, you need a good deal of separation, otherwise no matter how big their victory at the end, they're all going to be focused on mourning Usopp, rather than like, oh, we defeated the world government and saved the world and got the One Piece and everything, right? So if a Straw Hat is set to die, I think that would be it. It would be later, or sorry, earlier. So Elbaf seems like a solid opportunity if Oda's ever going to go that route. I think it would be Elbaf, but there's several things in Usopp's story that just feel like loose ends that I think, like the Yasopp thing, Van Augur, arguably Kaya, I just don't know. And then just the general fact of, is Oda actually ever going to kill a Straw Hat? I don't know about that. Interestingly, if Oda does ever kill a Straw Hat, I think Brook is a solid second. Like, killing a Straw Hat in general is like, it almost sounds like crazy talk. Because at this point, there was a period of time that I thought Oda would go for something like that. Now I feel like he's just so, he can't even keep the characters he already killed dead. So, now I'm like, my hopes for dramatic deaths are very, very low at this point in One Piece, okay? But if we're playing in the magic fantasy land of like Oda killing a Straw Hat, I think the two options are interestingly the two that are focused on in Elbaf, which is Usopp and Brook. Usopp is a lot of obvious reasons, even including like him talking about his own death and how he would like to die, and how it seemingly would fulfill his dream, etc. Right? So Usopp, ton of whatever, right? We don't need to get into that. But Brook is, I think, a solid choice just because Brook is a character who is, I know it's stupid, but it's not really a skull joke. Like, he is genuinely already dead. Like, Brook is a character who already lived a full, complete life. He lived a full, complete life, and he just has a fruit that gives him, like, a second bonus life. He's living on house money right now, But then with Brook, the one big loose end is obviously Laboon, right? So Brook can't potentially die to Laboon. So I think Brook can't die in Elbaf, But I also think that Brook would be the Straw Hat that is also most disposable, in a sense that I think if a Straw Hat were to die and have the least impact emotionally on the rest of the crew, such that it could be very heavy for them, but at the same time not ruin the big party and good vibes at the end, as long as there's sufficient time to move past the sacrifice, right? It would be Brook, because Brook is the newest, Jinbei is the newest Straw Hat, but Brook has kind of always been like the most background character of the Straw Hats. He doesn't have as like strict, but like as deeply woven bonds with the Straw Hats as like someone like Usopp, I think most of the Straw Hats accept that he's like a very old, like he's a totally different generation, much older character than them. And if you recall, even during Return to Sabaody, the Strats were talking about, like, yeah, we don't know if Brook's even gonna come back, right? Like, for the rest of the crew is obvious, like this is it. Like, this is, we live and breathe this. Like, we are here. We exist for Luffy. There was no doubt that anybody else was coming back. But with Brook, it was like, I don't know if he wants to go do a music career. Like, that was literally a discussion. It was like, if Brook wants to go do a music career, like, we barely know him, right? We just picked him up one island ago. Is he going to want to come stay with us? Obviously, more time has passed since then, but I'm just saying that if you had to pick a Strat that is the most disposable, it would probably be Brook. Um, you know, kind of like Oda wrote Pedro like set up to die already, in the sense that Pedro already had a lot of years taken off of his lifespan. Oda kind of wrote Whitebeard in a similar manner, like Whitebeard's already lived on his deathbed, right? Like when Oda writes characters who are already kind of like Cobra's walking around all sick and in a wheelchair and everything, walking around, you know what I mean? I think when Oda writes characters already kind of like one foot in the grave, he's more prepared to kill them. Like he's setting them up like, hey, they're this is just a natural consequence of things anyway, therefore it's more okay to kill them. Brook is even further in that direction than any other character, in the sense that he literally already died. He is a skeleton, he's a walking corpse. And yeah, he's just playing with house money. Like every day is a gift for Brook, because he shouldn't even be alive at this point. He should have died 50 years ago or whatever. Anyway, Yasop would react like Jing after the Ant arc. Yeah, Yasop won't care. I'm not saying that Yasop is gonna care. I'm saying more so that, like, it feels important for Usopp's story for him to meet his father, because Usopp has referenced his father many times throughout the story, and that seems like an important connection. That's all. Oh, here, let me let Casey out real quick. Okay, Casey, hold on. All right, hello, hello. One sec. Yeah, let's get the stream likes up to 75 real quick. Who's more of a deadbeat, Yasop or Jing? I think Yasop, because Jing at least left a trail for his son, you know? I don't think Yasop ever gave a shit. And also, Yasop left Usopp and... Sorry if I don't remember, in Hunter x Hunter, is Gon's mother ever explained to us? Okay, I gotta go, Mort. See ya, Meek. Thanks for coming through. Is Gon's mother ever referenced or established? I must say the most shocking on previous chapters while I read, I see Chopper Uno Dami reversing like it was nothing. Yeah, there's something going on there. I'm very curious. I mean, like, the Forest God is the simple explanation, but um, who knows? Who knows? Jing and Yasop literally abandoned their wives in the same manner. Yeah, I think Jing just leaving a trail for Gon makes him like a little like Jing isn't a good how do I explain this? Jing, at least a lot of his actions seem to suggest that he cares about Gon's future and his journey and his development as a man or whatever. Jing just himself doesn't want to be hands-on with it, right? Because like Greed Island, right? That was a whole setup, you know, that he kind of left behind for Gon. That's a lot, you know? Yasop, I think, just doesn't really he hasn't really done anything for Usopp. So I would say that Yasop is the bigger deadbeat. Yasop literally lives like a few days away from Usopp and his mother for a year and never visited. That is very true. Yeah, that's very true. That's actually so terrible. Anihime Nue, thanks for the 10. Let's be honest, the OG 5 Strahd crew members are the pillars of this crew, Luffy, Zoro, Nami being the closest in terms of bond since the Strahd pirates are built on the backs of those three. Yeah, I agree. I did a whole video on this way back on like the origins of the Strahd crew. The East Blue 5 are the main characters, and then the Strahds as a whole can be considered like the overall main characters. But the East Blue 5 are the main characters. I think Nami and Usopp have not felt like that in recent times. Nami did get a very big role in Whole Cake Island, though. In terms of like prominence, Nami was like kind of the Luffy, Nami, and Sanji were like the main Straw Hats who got story focus over the course of Whole Cake Island. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, Brook got the coolest moments." Like he got good moments, but I'm saying like in terms of who the story really followed from start to finish and whose emotional journey it focused on, it was Luffy, Sanji, and Nami. So Nami got stuff then, and she was obviously relevant in Wano, but in terms of like serious character focus, it's been a bit, you know. Levels being a thing. Let me check it out. Let's see. Let me learn something. I couldn't find a clip, but the best I could find of proof of levels in anime, I couldn't find the clip, but a comment does mention and quote it. Okay, let's see. Hold on. Okay, so this is, I guess this is it here. So this is the best we've got. He has no bias, he's gotten all types. He's really is Professor Okito's grandson. They're all very high levels. So I guess, yeah, if this is the furthest it goes for, let's see. There's a Pokemon Academy which starts a student being incredibly blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there are levels at like, even if you could technically find references to levels occasionally over the course of Pokemon, I think you would argue that it would be disingenuous to argue that levels are a main component of the Pokemon anime or something that like the average view would be like a prominent part of the average viewing experience in the manner it is in the games. Where in the games it's like all about the technicalities of levels and like percentages of crit hits, etc. I think you would agree that even if technically you could find levels as like a footnote in the series, which apparently, according to these people's arguments, it's kind of been retconned, it's nowhere close to what it is to the games, right? Like, it's a very flimsy argument, I think you would say. Like, come on, if you're watching the Pokemon show, you're like, as a kid, you're never once thinking about fucking levels. It's just like, this Charizard's stronger than that Charizard, you know, this fucking Blastoise fucked up this, whatever, you know, that's pretty much it. Levels almost never comes into the discussion. I guess you could find a quote here or there across like a million episodes. It's pretty much it. Let me see if there's other comments on this. Oh, this person's trying to rationalize. Maybe leveling exists as a relative strength and not a hard set one like in the game. In this universe, Pokemon battles are sporting competition, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is a good argument. In normal sports, the average veteran at their peak would be a higher level than the average rookie. Maybe it could be random weird inconsistencies. I don't know. I don't know. But all I know is that the Pokemon anime is nothing like the fucking games. It's like night and day. Two very, very different things. In a way, they say Pokemon has to be under the right conditions to get stronger, so in a way, levels are mentioned by battle experience. But that applies to like real life and stuff too. Like that's like saying hockey has like technical levels, you know? Which it doesn't. Like it's just like, no, you need the right conditions for hockey. Pikachu just went up another level. My Pikachu's like level 56. This fucking Squirtle's level like 49 or something, right? It's not even close to the same thing. But you could argue that there's like a tiny thread of like similarity there. If you want to argue the technicality of like are levels referenced at some point in the anime, then we could give that. But if you want to argue that levels are like a big part of the Pokemon anime or like actually a like part of the viewing experience, I think that that's not really the case, right? So the Pokemon anime I loved, and then the Pokemon games are like just math nerd shit, you know? The anime and games are 10 times more similar than the card game to any of the games or shows. So the Pokemon card, add Pokemon cards. I don't think the Pokemon card game is a very good card game at all. Um, I had Pokemon cards, but the system, because I got into other card games, and it's like, what do you call? I got into other card games, and you know, like I was big into Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. And Yu-Gi-Oh is a terribly flawed game, but it feels like the Pokemon card game is like almost unplayable. Or I played it once with my neighbors. I wouldn't say unplayable, but it felt very not fun. I don't know why. I think I'd have to go back and try it again. For the longest, I couldn't understand it. Yeah, I think it has strange rules too. I think there's also some rules about how much mana you can, or not mana. I forget exactly. Like, there's mana cards, or like, I don't know. I don't remember exactly. Hockey is a technique that so Dear Musloner says hockey's a technique that needs training to excel in, but what we see Emu use is not hockey. In manga, manga is called Maki. Emu stated that Maki appears in all things, but hockey also appears in all things. I have some theories about Maki, but I want to. Maybe this would be a good time to do it. I think this could be a good time to drop the Maki theory because I think I've got something pretty interesting for it. Morge, when Emu told Loki in 1182, Omen. So another comment about Maki. This from Plume and Blackhead Shocky. Omen is simply Moo's military might. I think it's akin to Garp throwing cannonballs at the struts at the end of Water 7. He was suggesting that he wasn't fighting at his full effort. I don't think I really took that away. That wasn't really my takeaway from that comment, but maybe that's what that means. I would say like, is Emu fighting at full effort? Like, is he going all out right now? I don't think he's going all out, but I think at this point, it's clear that he does want to defeat Loki, and I I don't think it's like, oh, I could have just like waved my hand and defeated Loki. Like, you know what I mean? Like with Zoro and Sanji, it took Emu one panel each to defeat them, right? So very effortless. Um, I don't think Emu can just like immediately defeat Loki if he wanted to, but just is choosing not to. Does that make sense? So there's a difference between like a character not going all out versus a character like having an easy like you know what I mean? Like there's a difference between like a character not going all out versus like a character isn't trying, right? Those are two different things. Um, you know? Monkey556 says, we'll see how Brook first discovered the pirate song being Sake. Oh, I am interested in that. Also, we'll see him train under Candle since he loves her and is fascinated by swordsmanship. Yeah, let's put that in. We see how Brook discovered Binks' Sake song. And I thought Maki was just a meme people made up, LMAO. But I think it's literally called... Isn't it literally referred to as Maki? Oh, Plume Black Hat Shack, he says, I was just suggesting that Imu was saying he's just emptying his armory on Loki in 1181, as opposed to him now getting ready to execute Loki post the flashback. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think we'll see how what happens after the flashback. I don't think Imu's going all out. Like, definitely not. But I don't think he's, like, taking it... Like, I don't think he's, like, just doing nothing either, you know? The black flames we see Imu use and the halo in his back to me is the appearance of demonic aura, Maki. Yeah, to me that makes sense. I think that this is going to get a little bit confusing. Okay, because so right now one of the biggest things that we've got going on in One Piece that often ends up being controversial is like the disputes over when a character is using armament versus Conqueror's Haki attacks, right? Because there's very little differentiation. You know, sparks, is it lightning, is it the sound effect, is it the shape, is it the color, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of disputes about that, right? I think it's very funny that Oda introduces seemingly another power system, or at least another ability, right? Whether or not it's a full power system, at least another ability in the form of Maki that is not the same thing as Haki explicitly, but at the same time is drawn in a manner that is remarkably similar to Haki, such that I think that we are going to get... It hasn't happened yet, but I think we are going to get a lot of moments of disputes of like, okay, was Imu using Haki here or Maki? Because again, it's just... I don't know why Oda's doing this. Like, it's just more... Like, black obviously makes sense as like fitting with Imu's abilities, like just what he represents, you know, like evil, darkness, etc. But then it's like, why go... Because now on top of Haki, you have another black form of energy. And at this point, the only thing we can rely on is shapes, right? And I think so far Oda's been good with, like... I think it's been clear when Inu's been using Haki versus Maki. But at a certain point, it is going to get messy, right? Because it's a lot of black shape attacks, you know? At some point, there'll be a clash, and it'll be like, okay, did Imu use Maki and Haki? Or did he just use Maki? Is Imu's Haki stronger than this character's Haki? Or is his Maki plus Haki stronger than this? Like, it sounds so stupid also just saying it out loud. And then that's not even getting into Blackbeard, whose ability is also darkness. But I think Blackbeard's darkness is drawn very distinctively, so it should be fine. But yeah. Yeah, Maki and Haki and Maki are even written very similar in kanji. Maki is what dreams are when corrupted. I don't want to elaborate on this too much because I have a video that I want to drop explaining what the whole concept seems like it's shaping up to be, because I think Oda has dropped a lot of clues. So I don't want to get into that right here. But I think Oda's dropped a lot of clues about it, so that'll be a little video. If Imu keeps toying with them, he's going to die by time. Yeah, this is Hydrogen. Yeah, that's the other thing that suggests to me that Imu's not really, like... Again, going all out versus... I don't think he's, like, holding back or, like, just toying with Loki because the time limit thing, right? So, like, this is, like, you know... This is Imu putting in effort, right? Max effort... Sorry for yelling. Max effort? No, probably not. But he's not just like toying with him. He can't be toying with him because he's a man on a mission, you know. Henchme says no need to complicate the power system with a new magic at this point. I mean, if Oda just figured out the power system he's got and did that a little bit better, then maybe we'd be okay with another one. If Maki is special Evo Haki, Oda is Wash. I'll save it for the video. I think it makes more sense than people are making it sound right now. Tiptio says, also funny thing, Loki versus Emu is clearly the strongest battle we've seen yet. Yeah, so one thing is that it's definitely okay, in my mind, it's definitely the highest level battle that we've seen. But I think that there's still some doubts about it because there's still some trepidation on how we scale Loki. I think if Oda had done... There's trepidation about how to scale Loki because right now Loki's quote unquote like how strong he is based off of like it at the moment it does make sense that Loki should be stronger than the old generation and stuff like that, right? But the tricky thing with Loki is like we still have the Shanks question mark about like okay, well, what happened there, right? So there's that. And then the other thing with Loki is how do I say this? He never really got a fight to establish how strong he is before being thrown against Emu, right? I don't think that's the best because it's like this is Emu's first real fight, right? So I mean, Emu took out Zoro and Sanji, but Zoro and Sanji are pretty weak in the grand scheme of things, right? So like the first strong character Loki's fighting or Emu's fighting is Loki, but then Loki's strength is like implied to be crazy high, but I think it would have been better if Oda showcased it, like showcased a direct comparison between like Loki and Luffy first or something like that. Because the one thing we saw Loki do, the one thing that we know about Loki is like the Herald fight, but the Herald fight we didn't really get to see it, right? Like it's pretty much off screen the whole time. We can kind of get the idea that Loki is kicking Herald's ass and everything, but like then Herald himself is a character that he's we know Harold's equal to like you have to do a lot of sort of like therefore and then therefore and then therefore to come to the conclusion that Loki is very strong, right? Because it's like okay, Rox is likely similar to like Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard, right? And therefore Harold, who we've only ever seen fight Rox, therefore Harold is probably on that level as well, probably. And therefore, even though we don't see the fight, Loki fighting an amped version of Harold suggests, therefore, Loki should be, stronger than the Pirate King characters. Seemingly, right? We don't really get to see it. And so it's like a lot of implied stuff for Loki, and then just the first fight is against Emu, right? And so it's like, it seems like this is logic. Like, if you just follow the chain of what Oda seems to be implying, this should be the highest level battle ever. But it would have been cooler if we I think it would have been better if Oda gave us one clear display of Loki's strength in the modern day against some modern day ass characters, to just feel like, okay, Loki just fucking, took out this character or something. Like, I think something like that would have been good, and then seeing him against Emu, personally. Tiptia is saying it's literally very obvious. I'm personally there as well. Like, I read it with viewing it as, like, yeah, Loki's above those characters, right? The Shanks thing is still a question mark for me, right? Shanks thing is still a question mark. Maybe Shanks is just that strong or whatever. But the reality is that there's, like, a lot of people who are still uncertain about like Loki's strength, and you can kind of just see that from general discussion. And it's like, well, it should be obvious to everyone, and it's like you can say that, but like you can also point out that it would just be easier if Oda just straight up showed Loki take out a character whose strength we're very familiar with. That's the thing. With Harold, it's like you have to do a lot of like extrapolation, That's all. like, put it simply, like, if you're having the two strongest characters, if you're having the highest level fight in the story, I feel like for it to feel the way it should feel, you should have an adequate amount of, like, established, like, it shouldn't be, like, a lot of implied stuff. It should be like, no, like, look how strong Loki is. He just fucking destroyed this admiral or this Yonko or something like that, right? Something very clear on screen, on paper, etc. Give him some clear statements, you know, established statements or something, and then have him fight Imu. That's good, right? Like when Gojo is gonna fight Sukuna, nobody was sitting around like, okay, well, I think Gojo is like maybe stronger than this character, probably stronger than this, and Sukuna stronger than that and that. It's like, no, it's like clear, right? I think that would be my only thing with this. I think giving Loki his first on-screen fight against the strongest character in the world is not the best way to establish him, I think. And also not even the best way to establish Imu necessarily, because Oda should have done more with Loki first. Like, I think Oda should have done some stuff with Loki first on screen for us, establish Loki at, like, the tippy top, clearly, and then have Imu fight Loki, so then it's even clearer how strong Imu is. That's all. Hydrogen says Kaido is the strongest. I mean, there's still a lot of people who feel that way, you know? So, to me, that is on the author to some degree. Like, if you want to dispel that notion, just make it a bit more clear. That's all. Tiptio saying the Shanks greater than Loki greater than Herald thing was very obvious for One Piece fans before the God Value flashback. Yeah. But since Roger is clearly the ceiling and Harold fought rocks equal, blah, 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 they had to create excuses so that the old gen headcanon could stay the same. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you can argue it's excuses or whatever, but a lot of it is also just, like, how much Oda's built up certain characters, right? Like 90% of people had Roger above Shanks. 95% of readers had Roger above Shanks prior to the flashback, because that's what the story strongly implied in many spots, you know? That Roger was kind of implied to be the ceiling. So, if you want to dispel that as an author, I think you can do that more conclusively to give hype to, you know, the new characters, you know? That's all. So, I think that all will be more clear as time goes on, but at the moment, I think that while I view this as, like, the highest level One Piece battle ever, the fact that it's not, like, obviously blatant to all readers suggests that I think Oda could have been a bit more clear in spots. Chillax Reader says, people who think Kaido are the strongest are secretly Mihawk fans in disguise, trying to convince everyone that, like, world's strongest creature actually means something. I don't know. I think Kaido... My thing with Kaido is that, like, I think Kaido has a really big sort of... Kaido has a lot of support behind him in terms of his strength, because, like, the Kaido agenda backs up a lot of other agendas. Does that make sense? Because so many characters got to fight Kaido, it's like the more you gas up Kaido, the more you can kind of gas up your favorite character, right? So, like, let's just walk through this for a moment, right? So, if the more you gas up Kaido, well, Zoro scarred... Let's use these examples, right? So many characters got to fight Kaido, right? So, Zoro scarred Kaido, right? Zoro blocked an attack from Kaido and Big Mom together, right? That's hype for Zoro, right? Like, the more you hype up Kaido, the more impressive it is for Zoro, right? What he did, right? And this was before Zoro even mastered Conqueror's Haki and everything like that, right? I mean, he still technically hasn't, but you know what I mean. Before King of Hell, some people like to say Zoro scarred Kaido with just armament Haki. I disagree. I think Ashura is clearly established to be conquerors, but, you know, whatever. Either way you spin it, the more you gas up Kaido, the better it is for the Zoro agenda, right? Like, it's like Zoro went up against top one in the world and permanently scarred him. That sounds really good, right? Let's say you're a Luffy fan. Most people are Luffy fans, right? And let's say you want to argue like Luffy's top 5, etc., right? Luffy versus Kaido, that goes a long way towards that, you know? Like, yeah, most people are like, Luffy ultimately needed a lot of help to get the win on Kaido, but it's cool to say that Luffy went up against, like, the strongest in the world and did so well, right? And then on top of that, let's say you just like Kaido in general, like, because Kaido is a badass character, right? So then Kaido, like, you've got Zoro agenda going for wanting to gas up Kaido, you got Luffy agenda going for wanting to gas up Kaido, You've got fucking Kaido's own agenda, right? Like, Kaido has his own set of fans that want to gas him up. Maybe you're a fucking Yamato fan, right? So, I don't know. Yeah, Black Blades are because of hockey. I agree Black Blades are because of hockey. They're obviously formed from hockey. Zoro kills Kaido when he comes back. Anything's possible. OMG, Kaido fought all those commanders with another Yonko. That's my thing with Kaido. Like, I've never heard anybody just state Kaido's feats without significant hyperbole and exaggeration. Kind of like probably happens in the One Piece world itself, which is like Kaido went 16v1. It's like, no, he didn't. He had another Yonko on his side. And most of those characters he fought were like, yeah, Yonko like most of those characters he fought were not Yonko commander level, right? And then out of the ones he fought who were commander level, he had another Yonko on his side, and they still it sounded like he was one-shotting them. Like it was still a back and forth, you know? It's everything to me, everything Kaido did on the raid was immediately less impressive the moment Shanks one-shotted Kid and Killer at the same time. Because then it's like, okay, so like what does it matter if you like you know what I mean? Like, if anything, it seems like Kaido took longer than he should have to take out these characters, right? And then people are like, well, Kaido was holding back, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but it still doesn't make it a feat, you know? Like, if the argument is now like, oh, well, like, because first the argument, like, you can't have it both ways. Like, first it's like, oh my god, Kaido held out against so many commander level characters. That's really impressive. Because it's difficult, right? That's the implication. But then it's like, no, you can just look at Shanks and it's like, well, it looks like Shanks could have mopped the floor with those guys without Big Mom on his side in like 2 pages, right? So now it's kind of established that Kaido's feat is not actually that difficult because if you're a Yonko, you should be able to take out those commanders very quickly. Unless Kaido's weaker than Shanks, but people don't want to talk about that, right? It's no longer, yeah, you know what I mean? Oh man, people are arguing Mihawk versus whatever. DeBear says Kaido Kid never had got hit with any real Kaido attack. Kaido wanted to test them. Yeah, I'm totally fine with the argument that Kaido wanted to test them, but then it's no longer a feat. A feat is doing something impressive, right? Like Mihawk toying with Zoro is not a feat for me. Like you could argue in the sense that like it establishes Mihawk's way stronger than someone like that, but Mihawk's supposed to have little difficulty with Zoro, right? Like it a feat is generally like something that's it's more impressive if it's something that's like being implied to be very difficult for the character, right? Like you can't like the argument for Kaido is basically the whole time like, well, who else could like taking out so many commanders on the same time? Who else could do it? It's like, well, Shanks is it's just established it would be very easy for him to do it, and it's like, well, it would have been easy for Kaido to do it too, right? But it's no longer a feat that's as impressive anymore, right? Because it's immediately established that like he was just taking longer to do something that in theory should have been very easy. You know what I mean? Kaido is literally using hybrid form at the roof, barely holding back. Yeah, I think it's also harder to argue that you're holding back when you're using your power up. I mean, obviously, like you have examples like Luffy versus Lucci, so it's not a hard and fast rule. I mean, Luffy versus like Roto's pets, even where he goes gear fifth. So it's not a hard and fast example, but you know, taking out a commander is always impressive. I think you're missing the point though, which is like you can no longer hold Kaido's feats as the best. You know, if his feats are essentially like his feats are essentially not defeating commanders as easily as somebody else defeated a commander or commanders, right? So, and the argument is basically like, well, hypothetically, he could have also defeated those commanders as fast, but he didn't. So it's like his feats aren't as good as characters who established plain and simple that they can take out commanders really fast. Does that make sense? Kaido still got the best feats to me combat-wise so far. I guess it's bias. I mean, it's to me, it's like strictly worse than what Shanks did, right? Because it's like not defeating 5 commanders with another Yonko on your side versus actually defeating 2 commander type characters in one blow. So it's strictly worse. And then on top of that, Kaido against strong characters, he stalemated Big Mom. Then Gear 5 Luffy, who just became a Yonko, I guess. That's it. And then other characters actually have, like, Loki defeating Herald is huge, you know? That's like a feat, you know? Loki versus Emu, that's huge, you know? Like, to me, I value what you do against strong characters more. And then even if you want to tailor it to, like, well, how did Kaido do against weaker characters like commanders? It's like, well, he doesn't actually beat them as easily as characters like Shanks or Emu have been shown to. So, I don't know. Kaido one-shot Luffy was commander level. That's true. That's fair. That's very fair. But I think you would agree that Kid as of Kid as of Egghead Island was probably stronger than Luffy in Act 1 of Wano, right? And Kid plus Killer together, really. That's fair. Plume, Black Hat Shaki, Kaido one-tap Luffy, killed him 3 times too. But again, it's like Crocodile beat Luffy multiple times. It doesn't really matter, right? What matters is how strong was the character at the time of victory, right? If Luffy's fucking commander level, it doesn't matter, right? It's just the same as beating another commander, you know? Kid's way stronger than Prelude on Luffy? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not taking Kid over Act 1 Luffy's Morio anime. I think that's like a fair take. It just depends how you scale Kid. I think Kid's a little hard to scale. Alright, guys. I think it is about time to... Because now we're getting stuck on silly debates, I would say. Alright, we are going to call it here. So heads up, I mentioned that there's basically like, this is kind of an off week, right? So again, normally I don't take breaks or anything like that, but so you guys got the video Tuesday. We did chapter prediction stream. Next week, we will be back to usual schedule with Friday chapter stream, Saturday chapter review, all of that stuff. Videos will start coming out again as normal, but there will be no video Tuesday and most likely no stream Monday. I'll do a post on Monday just to confirm, but right now, a lot of things going on. So I am having to take a little bit of a, like this, essentially from this Tuesday, right? This last Tuesday through, through next week is basically, I'm taking a little bit of time off from the channel. So hope that's all good, guys. Pirate King podcast will come out as usual next week by Wednesday or Thursday. So watch out for that. And then we're back to our usual schedule. But I hope you guys can forgive the 1 week off. But yeah. With that, I will talk to you all later. Thanks for coming through.